Yes, what's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. As a starting 11 prediction for tomorrow's second leg in Kazakhstan against Kairat Almaty. It's, of course, 0-0 from that first leg at Celtic Park last week. So it is a winner takes all 90-minute shootout. Brendan Rodgers said today in the press conference there are no excuses for the team. We have to win, not the travel distance that Kairat had to make in the same direction last week, and the travelling they've done in their previous qualifiers to get to the playoff stage as well, and not the heat out in Kazakhstan as well. There can be no excuses for the team not to go and win this football match. Like Kenny said at the weekend in the full-time reaction after the Livingston game, to squander winning a league title and given the chance of making the Champions League stage again, to squander it over the two legs in this tie against a team like Kairat Almaty would be a huge failure for all concerned. We talked so much after the game last week, the first leg, about the lack of depth and the lack of quality in the squad and the lack of preparation due to the club's failings in the transfer market, and even that can't be used as an excuse tomorrow night. There's no doubt that if we do fail to qualify, that will be a huge talking point, but it can't be used as an excuse for the manager or the players to get the job done. Now, before we turn our attention back to the game tomorrow, I suppose I should discuss some transfer news, which is starting to trickle in ever so slowly now that we're at the 25th of August with just about a week to go. We still need at least 4 players in. We've needed those 4 players since the last signing was made, which I think was Simpson Pusey about 4 weeks ago. But the news is starting to slowly trickle in. As I say, Marco Tilio has signed for Rapid Vienna. We finally were able to let him move on. We had to keep him for a long period of time there. There was 3 or 4 weeks where the Celtic squad could not survive without Marco Tilio, despite the fact he'd barely even made, I don't think he made a bench, did he? I don't think he made a competitive squad, a match day squad in any of these competitive matches that we've played so far. That's how key an asset Marco Tilio was for us, but we had to cling on to him because we didn't have any other wingers. He's now signed for Rapid Vienna permanently, a £1.3 million deal. File him under the same category as Kwon, who also left permanently this summer, as a really strange signing, coming from out of nowhere and never really in a position to make an impact in any meaningful way to the Celtic first team. There's been a few of those recently, but that is the news in terms of outgoings. In terms of incomings, it looks like Michel Balikwisha is on the way from Royal Antwerp. Again, probably a 12-month plus pursuit of him, a £5 million move. He is a wide player. At last, it looks like we might bring in a winger. Can you believe it? I find it really difficult to celebrate, given that it's not done yet on one hand, but also the time that it's taken. I don't think there's any excuses really for us to be in this situation, trying to get these players in the last week of the window. And I'm not going to be in a position by the end of the week where I'm celebrating the business that Celtic have done, but there's no doubt that we need bodies in, and Balikwisha looks like he is finally on his way from Royal Antwerp. We'll see what kind of player he is. We'll see what kind of impact he can have if the deal does get confirmed. Also today, reports suggesting that Calvin Stengs from Feyenoord, who Celtic have been linked with, could be on the verge of a move to Leicester City. I think Feyenoord are looking somewhere in the region of 8 or 9 million euros. We don't really know where Celtic's approaches have been, but we did hear today from Anthony Joseph at Sky Sports News that Celtic are waiting on finding out whether they make the Champions League tomorrow night or not, and then they might go back in for Calvin Stengs, because of course we're absolutely skint without this Champions League money. I don't think we'll be able to keep the lights on for much longer, so you can understand why the board would want to see if we qualify or not tomorrow before laying out the astronomical fee of €8 million. So we'll see how that one progresses. It's in all likelihood Calvin Stengs may well be a Leicester City player by the time the Celtic board decide whether they would like to move ahead or not. But like I say, at least there's some sort of movement, something that resembles movement in the transfer window. You could be forgiven for forgetting the transfer window was even open in the last 3 or 4 weeks following Celtic. We could condense our whole business into 1 week. I don't know why we have 2 months to do it, because we don't utilise any of that other time. Right, let's turn our attention back to tomorrow then. last week was a poor performance. I think we didn't test the goalkeeper enough. We didn't play at enough speed. I think Kairat Almaty were well organised in their shape out of possession. I think they pressed us and they were quite aggressive at times when we got into central areas. They pounced on us. They were tight up against us. You'd expect them to be all of those things tomorrow in their own stadium as well. Again, the conditions, Brendan Rodgers says, cannot be used as an excuse. So, like I say, it's a 90-minute game. The winner takes all. We've got to play at a high level and make sure we find a way to win the football match. No Scottish team has ever won in Kazakhstan. We've had a couple of trips there. Some of them have been second legs where we've had healthy leads, and some of them have been first legs. We haven't managed to win there. So I don't expect it to be easy by any means. It may well be tight. It may well be really hard fought. You'd like to think this could just be a comfortable outing, a comfortable evening for Celtic, and we can win by 3 or 4 goals. I don't foresee that happening. It's going to be tense. It's going to be full of anxiety, but let's hope we can get the job done and secure passage to the Champions League league stage, as it is now called, for the 4th year running. If we turn our attention to the lineup, we obviously had huge changes to the team on Saturday. I was miles wrong with that. Although I think first half, you could see what I was getting at with making so many changes. You maybe not get the fluidity that you're used to, although we haven't really been in top gear yet at any time this season so far. But I think we got there. I think the increase in tempo second half was clear, and we won the game really comfortably in the end. But there was way more changes than I thought there would be to the starting lineup. Tomorrow, you expect us to go back to full strength. Brendan Rodgers was able to give some key players a rest, which I think is obviously important given the travel and the importance of this game. Casper will be in goals. Ralston will be at right back given AJ's injury. Carter Vickers will come back in, who was able to get a weekend off. Well, he was on the bench, but he wasn't required at any point of the game. So that'll be good for him. I think he looked maybe a wee bit, could you say, complacent last week? As I say, that big error where he let the ball run under his foot, and then the Kairat player had a shot for the halfway line. Hopefully he's switched on and concentrated for this one. And you'd expect us to maybe have slightly more defensive work to do away from home than we did in that first leg last week. But we need Carter Vickers to be switched on and at his top level. Scales will be beside him, and Tierney will come back in as well. He was able to not play at the weekend, which again is good for him because we're managing his minutes as he builds up. So I think that will be the back four. And again, we need big performances out of them if they're going to have to do more defending, like Ralston in the wide areas, Tierney as well. We need to be switched on and concentrated because we don't want to lose any cheap goals. We don't want to go behind in the game. We don't want to have a mountain to climb. So we need a big defensive performance from the whole team, but primarily from that back four and goalkeeper. Midfield, Callum McGregor will come back in and he'll be joined by Hatate, and I think Nygren will play centrally as well. Callum McGregor did come on late in the game, but again, good for him to maybe reduce his minutes ahead of this big game. Nygren, I thought, playing from the right-hand side, maybe a bit predictable at times and not got enough pace to his play that we'd associate if you think back to last season with Nicholas Kuhn. Real speed out wide and a change of direction that can throw defenders off. Even though he was left-footed, he liked to come inside as well. But I think you can see Nygren has not quite got that pace, and I think it was a wee bit predictable in the first half on Saturday. But he scored 2 good goals, and I think the 2 goals on Saturday really highlight Nygren's knack and instinct for scoring goals. Because if you look at someone like Engels, who I think from open play doesn't have that goal scoring knack for a midfield player, I think you can tell that Nygren has got it. He's in the right positions. He started to move off really well. I think there's a ball out for Schmeichel from the back. He dummied it past the defender, carried it up the pitch, played it out left, and then he was in on the shot that was rebounded. I think it was Yang's shot for the edge of the box, and he was there in the right position to open the scoring for us. And again, the second one comes back to him quite quickly on his weaker foot, bodies everywhere, and he manages to find the top corner. I think that's why his goal scoring record is good. It's really difficult, I think, to coach or teach that instinct to be in the right place at the right time to score goals, and it looks like Nygren has it. Hatate, need a big performance from him. again defensively, but also offensively with the ball. I think last week he showed some relatively nice touches early on and nice quick 1-2s early on. But we need them to really try and unlock this Kairat Almaty defence, because we didn't do that enough. We didn't create enough in the way of goal scoring chances last week. So we've got to do that tomorrow night if we're going to go and win this game. Front three, I think Forrest will come back on the right hand side. Nigrin going out there, I think probably better suited to playing centrally, and I think that's what Brendan Rodgers will go with. So it means Forrest as your go-to man on the right hand side. 16 years on, he's still the go-to man in the Champions League qualifiers on the right hand side. Need a big performance for James A. Again, you're probably only looking at getting 60-65 minutes out of him, and then having to make a change and shuffle things around. Dyson, I'm going on the left hand side. Now I accept there'll be a lot of people saying that they want to see him play through the middle, and perhaps that could be the case. He could put Dyson through the middle and put Yang on the left hand side. I think Yang, he wasn't poor at the weekend. He did, like I say, he had that shot second half coming inside, working the space for himself and getting a shot away and making something happen. Again, I'm just not sure you can hang your hopes on Yang in a game of this magnitude, in a game with such consequence, because he's not really shown that he's able to deliver on these stages so far in his Celtic career. So I'm going Dyson on the left hand side. And Adam Idah, who was out at the weekend, to come back in and play through the middle. Now I know I can already see the comments before you've made them about not wanting to see Idah lead the line because he's been so disappointing, so underwhelming. Could you make a case for Yamada? I think you could. Like I say, Yamada is raw. He looks a bit erratic, but I think he was busy. He made things happen at the weekend. He produced one or two decent saves for the goalkeeper. His link-up looked better than it had been so far. I think he creates a bit of chaos as well, and I think he works hard. Probably creates a bit more chaos than Idah up there. He's probably a bit more naturally suited to closing down and getting himself about the pitch than Idah. Certainly a different profile, but I just feel that Brendan Rodgers will go with Adam Idah. We need a hell of a lot more out of him. We need a much better performance, a much better work rate. The thing that stood out to me in the first leg last week with Adam Idah, and okay, he's missed the game at the weekend with a knee problem, so perhaps I'm misreading this, but he picked up the ball on the halfway line about 39 minutes, turned on it, dribbled it into the centre of the pitch, laid it out to the left, I think to Dyson, and then the move broke down. I don't know if it was a wayward cross, but the move broke down, went for a Kairat goal kick, and he had his hands on his knees and he looked absolutely knackered after 39 minutes. We need more out of him. We need more in terms of a goal threat. We need more in terms of link-up play, and against the ball as well. I think Adam Idah's got a lot on to prove that he can be the Celtic striker, the first choice Celtic striker. And if he gets the nod tomorrow, it's another huge chance and a huge game where we need him to deliver. The one thing I will say for him is, at times throughout his Celtic career, he has scored goals in big games, and we need him to do that tomorrow if he is going to play. Let me know what you think in terms of who should play through the middle in the comments below. Credit to some of you who called that there would be a lot more changes than I thought there would be at the weekend. Let me know what you think of that team for tomorrow night. Let's hope we can get the job done. I think this game is huge in terms of the season, in terms of the mood around the place. I think making the Champions League is the bar for Celtic. I know that we're going to go in there into that competition as underdogs, and if the draw isn't kind to us, we could be on the end of a few hidings, but we have to aspire to be in the Champions League. I think given where we're at in terms of the board and the failings in the transfer window, the inactivity in the transfer window, we can't become happy with the Europa League. We can't just settle for the Europa League. We need to make the Champions League. That's where Celtic should be. Certainly with the resources that we have right now, that's where we should be. That's where we should aspire to be. And I think tomorrow's massive in terms of improving the mood around the place. And then we've got a huge game at the weekend. Hopefully the draw to look forward to on Thursday, and then the first derby of the season at the weekend. Rangers are an absolute mess by the looks of things. It's a joy to watch, but I can't really enjoy it too much because I think we've got so much work to do, and there's no way that Celtic should be measuring themselves against the mess that Rangers are just now, despite the fact that it is brilliant. to watch week in and week out. We've got to sort things out for Celtic, and we've got to aspire to be at that elite European level, because that's how we improve, that's how the players improve, that's how the manager improves. That's where Celtic belong as a football club, and tomorrow night is the night the players need to deliver and get us back to that level. We'll see you tomorrow with a full-time reaction after the game. Thank you.